Hey, what do you call a crazy spaceman? An astronut.
Hey, shh.
Welcome back to Not Another Needless Sequel, where we watch movies and propose unnecessary prequels, sequels, reboots, and remakes. My name is Kane. With me, as always, is my co-host and wife, Kelsey.
What do you call that person who rides in the car but they're not driving?
I couldn't have possibly imagined when you said you didn't have a line that you were gonna bring something worse to the table.
Well, what you said today is you could just say whatever after I told you I wasn't going to do a line anymore, and then that is instantly what came to my mind. So I'm just wondering if you could answer my question.
I think your mic's cutting out. This week, every moment counts in 2016's Passengers.
Aww.
So, what do you think the story was?
Why are you going, was? Like you're laughing.
Sorry, I think your mic's cutting out again. So.
Yeah, I can't understand your accent.
I'm waiting to hear what you think the story was.
So this movie is, what's the name of the ship?
The Avalon.
Okay, so the ship called the Avalon is in space and it's traveling to another planet. And a passenger named Jim, his cryopod, hibernation pod, whatever, malfunctions and he gets woken up 90 years too early. And then he wakes somebody else up on purpose.
Do you think that it
It's
would
about the navigation through that. Him waking her up really set the tone of the movie.
Jesus. Do you think the movie would have been better if they did not reveal to you that he woke her up until, like, we found out together? Like, what if, like, she just was, like, up one day and then you didn't know how it happened?
I think if they hadn't have shown that he was contemplating it for a long time.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, the Avalon is heading towards this. It's this another planet they're calling Homestead 2. It was like an over 100-year journey, so all the people there were put to sleep. They've been asleep about 30 years, and they have like 90 left. Mm-hmm. Like you said, Jim Preston, played by Chris Pratt, he wakes up because an asteroid actually hits the ship, and it has like an asteroid shield, but this was a huge one, so even though the asteroid shield broke it down, it still sent a pretty sizable chunk through the ship. Mm-hmm. The ship itself, according to the production designer Guy Hendrick Diaz, the inspiration for that design that they had, where it was like spinning as it was flying, mm-hmm. It came from observing the seeds of maple trees. Like when they fall off, they spin like tiny helicopters to like travel further so they can plant all around.
Oh, that's cool.
Anyway, with him being up, he is trying to ask, like, the AI, trying to figure out what to do. The AI on the ship is fucking awful. Like,
the AI on the ship is talking to him as if they woke up at the appropriate time, which is supposed to be 4 months before they landed on Homestead 2. So the AI doesn't know either. So he just keeps going about things for a while. It takes him a minute to realize that he's the only one up and that something is wrong. He eventually meets, like, the main AI and
well,
figures
it's just
it out.
a bartender. Or you mean, like, he goes to that room where it plots the destination, and it says, you still have 90 years to go till we get there. And so he's freaking out, you know. Then, yeah, he meets this bartender. He thinks it's another person momentarily, but it's just a robot that's set up there to just serve whoever. That bar room is inspired by the bar room from Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. In both those films, the bartenders are wearing red tuxedos, and the primary light source in that shot is from the bottom of the bar rather than the top.
Do you remember when we were watching this, I made a comment about The Shining?
Yeah, because, I mean, and you were right. There's also, like, even a variation of the iconic orange and red carpet from the Overlook Hotel in The Shining. You can see it in the bar. So,
that's really cool.
He is fucked. He's just gonna die. There's no way to be put back to sleep. He's trying all this stuff to, like, get into other areas of the ship to wake the crew or get help. He can't open up a certain area of the ship where the crew is. He can't figure out how to go back to sleep. He can't access half the shit on the ship because you have to be, like, a VIP member. And he becomes, like, suicidal.
He does. He does think about killing himself at some point. And watching him contemplate it is super sad.
Yeah.
Because he ultimately is too afraid to do it. Not that he doesn't want to do it, but he's too afraid.
Yeah, the distress on his face when he thinks about doing it, because he's just going to be alone for 90 years and just die of old age. So there's like a spacewalk thing, and he thinks about like releasing the airlock with him in it without a spacesuit on. On the movie poster for this movie, under the title Passengers, there's 3 dots, 3 lines, and 3 dots again, which is
Morse code?
Yeah, for SOS.
Mm.
So,
SOS me.
actually, when he's deciding whether or not he's going to kill himself, he's been alone for a year. And he is drinking, walking around the ship, and he happens to spot Jennifer Lawrence's character, Aurora Lane, asleep in her hibernation pod. And he starts making up, like, this relationship between them almost in his head, because he's reading her books, he's reading her file, he's learning all about her, and he decides, like, he's in love with her, like, this is the perfect woman for him, but she's asleep. He ends up waking her up. And there's like a big moment of him deciding whether or not he's going to do it. He keeps talking to the bartender, Arthur, about whether or not he should do it. And he's like reading this fucking manual on how to do it the whole time too, while still deciding. And I just like, there's no question you cannot wake someone else up, you know?
Yeah. I do think that it's very selfish that he woke her up.
Yes, and he does not tell her, and he even
because he
says,
ultimately ruined her. I mean,
well, yes, you.
At the time, it was perceived that he ruined her life.
They make a mention of a comparison later on in the film where they say a drowning man is always going to drag someone down with him. Like, that is exactly what he did.
Yeah.
But she doesn't know that, and he tells Arthur, don't tell her. I'm going to tell her in my own time. And instead, they spend all this time together. I mean, I think it goes over a year, right?
Before we get to that, though, I thought it was really interesting that they mirrored how he reacted. She acted the same way, and you can see her going through the same emotions, like the stages of grief, essentially.
Yeah.
Disbelief, she tries to do all this. He's like, I did this, and she's coming up with all of these things, and they are all things that he has already tried and thought of.
Yeah.
And so she finally comes to acceptance, and that's when you see the montage of them, like, becoming friends, forming a relationship, and then ultimately start, I guess, date. I don't know. They get together.
Yeah. And they are together for at least a year. I mean, there's a time jump, and he is going to ask Aurora to marry him.
Yeah.
There are only 2 people alive. Like, there's not a lot of options, but they are supposedly in love. At that moment, they make a comment that there's no secrets between them, and so Arthur, the bartender robot...
Let the cat out of the bag.
He thinks all is well, and he can mention it, and so he just says to Aurora, like, oh man, he was so excited to wake you up. We thought about it forever and ever. And she learns this and is immediately sick to her stomach, rightfully so.
Yeah.
You've been lied to all this time. He never told her. It would have been better to tell her in the beginning, even though she probably never would have forgave him. But at the same time, it's set up differently. You, like, tricked her into falling in love with you under this fake premise. And it's fucked. I mean, the whole time, like, I was watching them, I just could never, like, stomach their relationship. Because I was always just like, ugh, you did a horrible fucking thing.
So, of course, she absolutely wants nothing to do with him, rightfully so. Because he essentially killed her in her mind. I mean, he took her life away.
Yeah, because he didn't want to be alone, which I understand that I can't possibly fathom this feeling of being alone for a year, knowing that there is no change. Nothing will happen.
I think that excites you, though.
Me?
Yeah, if you were alone and never had to see or speak to another soul again.
No, I'd want you or someone. Anyway, at some point, a fucking crew member wakes up. Gus, he's the deck chief officer. So he is up and he's like, what's going on? What's, happening? And he's trying to figure everything out.
Before you do that, we should mention that throughout time, you start to see different things breaking and go wrong.
Yeah. It happens early. It's so early as to when he first wakes up, he's talking to Arthur, the bartender, and he says, like, hey, I'm awake, and no one else is, and Arthur's like, no, you couldn't possibly be awake, and he's like, okay, but I'm here, how is that? And Arthur just, like, shakes his head, and is just like, not possible. And so you see him like glitch there, and things just keep getting worse from there. There's
Yeah.
power outages.
There's this huge gravity scene. Or is that after Gus wakes up?
No, I mean, it is after Gus wakes up. Well,
Oh.
what happens is Gus, he is trying to figure out what's going wrong, but he seems to be sick. It's something about the way that he woke up. He wasn't properly awoken from hibernation, which is like a medical procedure to be put into hibernation and to wake up.
Yeah.
And so, because of the faults in the ship, he was woken up wrong and he's dying.
Yeah, he has hibernation sickness.
That was actually one of very few parts that I thought was funny is he gets in this auto dock machine, so it's like a bed that can scan you and tell you everything that's wrong. It pops up with 612 disorders, and he says, "What does it say is wrong with me?" And Chris Pratt goes, "There's a few things."
Yeah. You know, as you find out he's sick, you can kind of tell something is off from the thing, because it seems like he made the trip to Homestead 1. What I was going to say, though, is the scene where they lose gravity for a really long time,
Yeah.
and she is sleeping, or she's swimming, and Jim is just in his room. That was just...
Well, Jim was sleeping, and Gus was also sleeping.
That was visually badass.
I wrote down that scene was so cool. The way that, like, she starts fucking drifting up with the water, and she can't escape from the water
she's trying to swim out of it.
Yes, and even something about it was done super well. Like, I was very excited about that scene.
I don't think all of the CGI in this movie is done great, but that scene was cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved that scene. It was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So Gus does die from his sickness. I thought it was weirdly sad, like, seeing him die. Like,
yeah.
You think it wouldn't be sad because you barely knew him, but I was very depressed about it. He basically tells them it's gotta be this one area you have to look at as he's dying. And so they find out that they need to vent this reactor, but the only way for that to happen, Chris Pratt has to hold open the thing, you know, like Thor holding open the eye of the whatever.
You're about to take the full power of a neutron star.
Something like that. Yeah. So he has to hold it open, and he does that. And not only does it blow him outside, it blows him hard enough that it breaks his tether to his suit.
Aww.
So he's just free falling in
Poor
space.
Jim.
But Aurora ends up saving him, bringing him inside. They think he's dead. I mean, he is dead. He dies, but she puts him in this auto dock machine, again, like a futuristic medical device that's a table that can do, like, anything. And she activates, like, every single function on it to revive somebody. And luckily, she can do that because when Gus died, he gave them his bracelet, which is like the Deck Chief Officer authorizations.
So he has access to everywhere on the ship.
Yes, which they didn't have before. That's why early on he couldn't get into the crew area. There was a thing like certain hotel rooms. Like, now he can get anywhere. But anyway, she revives him. She's so happy he's alive. They make up, I guess, in that moment. And then it time jumps to 80 years later.
Well, I will say that in the end, though, Jim found out that using the auto dock, that she could go into hibernation. Yes. But one person would have to hit the button and only one of them could get in. And so then she decides not to.
Yeah, so they decide to just live together. Yeah, so they live the rest of their lives together. Painting the bartender's face back on because he, like, was smashing his face into the glass when everything was going wrong. Mm-hmm. And I wrote down, not to be shitty, but why are they worried about the robot? Like... Who cares?
He's got to look good for when people wake up.
Yeah. Well, anyway, people do wake up, and Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence have planted a whole forest. They lived a whole life, and they're finding their notes, or they're finding Jennifer Lawrence's
book.
Yes, because she was an author, and so she wrote like a biography or an autobiography about what she and Chris Pratt did all this time. I wish, and one of the things I thought is that I wish that they would have showed the horrific scene of the people finding their decaying bodies.
I have a note that says all I care about is where their dead bodies are.
Yes, because there's nowhere to bury it unless they threw themselves out the airlock in the end, but I doubt it. They're probably in a bed stinking.
They probably do stink, unless all that stuff they built, they like basically... They can't dig a grave.
Set up their own, like, composting
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know, though.
Crazy. Okay, so my pieces of trivia I want to mention is the third act of the movie was quite different from the original screenplay, in which Gus takes his own life by shooting himself into space, and Jim and Aurora have to contain the ship's damage. Jim never dies, but the 5,000 hibernation pods are ejected. Jim explains the hibernation system rebooted. It thinks the ship's in port. It's ejecting the empty pods. Aurora horrified. They're not empty. In the final scene, the ship arrives in Homestead 2 88 years later, and Jim and Aurora's descendants come out of it. Did I not say to you at the end of the movie, wouldn't it be fucked up if these people woke up and it was just inbred for
Yeah,
children?
you
And
did.
like,
You did.
that has to be. What do you mean their descendants come out of it? Who? That's gross.
It is gross.
Okay, then my final piece of trivia. Well, after you mocking me, I'm glad that this is my final piece of trivia. Chris Pratt also played Star-Lord in Avengers Infinity War, which also starred Tom Holland as Spider-Man. He also played Spider-Man in Spider-Man Homecoming, which also featured Donald Glover as Aaron Davis, who's the uncle to Miles Morales. Donald Glover, of course, starred in the TV show Community, where he was featured wearing Spider-Man pajamas as a reference to an online campaign to get him an audition for the lead role in The Amazing Spider-Man. Miles Morales co-creator Brian Michael Bendis describes that image of Donald Glover in the Spider-Man pajamas as one of the major inspirations for the creation of the character. Donald Glover also voiced Miles Morales in Disney's Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon series, and most recently appeared once again as Aaron Davis or the Prowler in Across the Spider-Verse. So as you can see, Donald Glover and Miles Morales are like peanut butter and jelly.
And what does that have to do with the movie?
I was telling you because Chris Pratt played Star-Lord.
Played or plays?
Plays. The budget for this movie was 110... Are you mocking me?
Oh, no.
The budget for this movie was between 110 and 150 million, and it walked away from the box office with 303.1 million.
That's pretty good. They doubled it.
On Rotten Tomatoes, Passengers has an approval rating of 30% based on 288 with an average rating of 5 out of 10. I rated it a 4 out of 5. I think I like a lot of stuff about it, but I do kind of hate that it did almost the rom-com arc of falling in love, having a problem, and then all is forgiven, because what he did is not equal to like, oh, you only asked me out on a bet or some shit from a rom-com.
Yeah, I actually gave it a 3 out of 5 for that reason, because I think that they shouldn't have ended up together. I think that it would have been funny if she would have gone to sleep. And then, you know, he just had to live with what he did with the memories of them together for the year. I realized that I think it's happy that they ended up together. They ended up saying, oh, well, whatever happened, happened, you know, and accepting fate. But I also think some of the lines in it were a little bit cheesy. But yeah, I only gave it a 3 out of 5, which is still better than the average. But I don't think I'd want to see this movie again.
I do like it. I'd want to see it. I like a lot of the space stuff, you know? Like, I love seeing a ship moving through space.
You do love you a space.
So, I have a bunch of questions that have to do with, like, being stranded on a desert island. It's like, you know, the stereotypical questions. Well, some of them are. Because, you know, the whole premise of this is a man stranded on a ship, and he even brings it up at one point. What if you were stranded on an island, but you could wish somebody there? Would you do it? Because they'll be stuck there too, but you wouldn't be alone. Like, that's how he's trying to justify waking Aurora.
Okay.
So, if you had to be trapped on a desert island with one person, who would it be?
Tough choice. You.
Me?
Yeah.
You wouldn't pick, like, Bear Grylls or something? You know, somebody who might actually get you off there?
No.
I'll be like, well, this is home now.
Yeah, you will.
If you were left on a deserted island with either your worst enemy or no one, which would you choose and why?
No one.
Interesting choice.
Because my worst enemy would be annoying, and then I'd go Lord of the Flies, because I was already alone.
Free food. Not free. You gotta put in some serious physical labor, probably.
Yeah, no thanks. Why? What about you?
I mean, I quite literally thought, yes, because free food.
Oh. You're afraid!
No, but look, I would rather have somebody to argue with and have opposing ideas. I think you're gonna get off the island quicker that way.
I would just accept it as home and make a Wilson. That's all I need is a Wilson.
My God. Okay, if you're stranded on a desert island, what 3 items would you want to have with you?
Any items. Would I have them indefinitely?
See, a question like this is so weird for me because, yeah, any items, a house with running water.
No, like physical items. Unlimited supply.
A physical item.
Unlimited
supply than water.
No, I'm saying that's my question. Is it unlimited supply?
No, I think, you know, if you were to wish for a water bottle, then you have a water bottle and you don't...
Okay. Antibiotics. In case I get an infection.
Okay. Wow. I never would have thought of that. I'll just die.
Sunscreen.
A pack of ciggies.
Sunscreen.
Okay, come on. How long is that sunscreen gonna
Oh
last?
wait, you said I only get one bottle. Just kidding. Just kidding.
A lifetime supply of sunscreen.
Yeah, a pot
A pot? Okay.
to boil the salt water, right? Or rainwater. Boil rainwater, and then it's.
Yeah.
And I can just drink out of the pot. I can cook in the pot. I could.
Okay.
Do it all. And antibiotics, because you didn't say how much, so I could get a fuck ton and keep them for a while. A pot and a jacket.
Okay.
Like a rain jacket, but that's also like a weather jacket. You know, like those North Face ones that have dual layers.
Mm-hmm.
Hood for the rain. What about you?
It's hard. I don't know. Some kind of multi-tool, like an axe with like a fucking...
Oh, that's a good idea. I didn't think of that.
Some shit like that, probably. A canteen. And backpack.
That's a good idea.
I don't know.
3 items is not enough.
Yeah, I'm still dead. If you were stranded on a desert island, how would you protect yourself from wild animals?
I'd say, hey, go away, you. Go away.
I'd pee on everything.
Mark your spot. X marks the spot.
Just kidding. I have to save my pee. I can't do that.
I'd just let them have me.
My God. What do you mean, protect myself from wild animals? How are they going to protect themselves from me? Because I'm looking for food.
That's true. I'm going to whoop that ass, boy. Built my spear.
If you were stranded on a desert island, what food would you miss the most?
Ice cream. What about you? Spaghetti.
Yeah. Okay. I doubt this is getting a sequel.
I hope not.
Oh. Okay. Well, what is your sequel?
It's called Passengers. What if?
Space. Time.
Reality. Yeah, exactly.
Is this because Chris Pratt was a Star-Lord in Avengers
and
Infinity War
I
alongside
made the
Tom
connection
Holland?
to Donald Glover and Miles Morales. Yeah, so this is going to be a limited mini-series of, like, movie length. I wouldn't say a full 2 hours, but, you know, like, Black Mirror.
I fucking love Black Mirror.
And explores the alternate possibilities of both Aurora and Jim. So, 7 episodes. Episode 1, what if Jim never woke Aurora up?
Ooh.
What would his life have entailed? What would he have done? Would he have figured it out? Like, would old boy still have woken up? And I think, you know, that'd be cool to explore. Episode 2, what if they just never signed up for a homestead mission? How would their lives have panned out on Earth?
Oh, I bet that Meredith and McDreamy wouldn't even be together. She'd probably be with Karev.
God. Episode 3, what if Aurora never forgave him?
Well, she killed him. Remember when she there's a scene where she goes into his bedroom and just starts beating the fucking shit out of him.
Does.
But then she picks up a crowbar, and it's kind of a sad scene. He, like, opens his hands. He's like, yeah, do it. But what if she just fucking killed him?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
What if the captain was never woken up? Like, would the ship have exploded? Would they have found another way in?
They would have died. They would have just died and not known what happened.
Yeah. So, you can come up. What if they both found a way to go back into hibernation? Would they have done it?
I was thinking, would the movie have been better if it showed them, say, for some reason they could both fit in the auto dock and use it together. And they did that. And then it shows them on Homestead 2, and it shows that over years they formed a new relationship and then got together. Would it be more forgiving? Because now, technically, all he did was take a couple years from her, which I know that's awful, but in the long run of things, like...
Yeah.
So I wondered, like, you know, would the relationship be better then?
That's what I'm saying. What if?
Yeah.
Episode 6, what if they had children? I didn't go the whole ancestral way you did. I would have just thought, say they were probably in their, like, late 20s, early 30s, and then, you know, say she had a kid. Like, their kid would be older. They'd be in their 60s, but you never know. Like,
what if that is what the scene meant? I assumed it was ancestral, but what if it just meant it was going to be, like, one person?
Yeah.
Like, hey...
Yeah. Well, I feel like they would have had 2 because they knew what it felt like to be alone. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, why stop there? Keep having them. Wake somebody else up.
Oh my gosh. And then 7, what if nothing ever went wrong? Would they have met once they landed? Would they have...
The whole episode is just the ship. Silence.
Yeah, that's it. Easy trip. Done.
Arthur just sitting there staring at the wall.
Yeah.
No, but you could show, because it said in the movie they were supposed to be woken up 4 months before they actually
Yeah.
arrived. So you show that 4 months of them, like, maybe bumping into each other.
Yeah. Anyways, that's all.
I like it. I think that's badass. I'd be
Thanks.
excited about that. It
Yeah.
sucks because people don't do stuff like that. And I think that is such a fun idea to do, like, what ifs for anything. Just movies that, like, don't have sequels. Like, what if they did a fucking Kill Bill what if? Something like that, you know?
Yeah, I feel like for this it was good because there were so many alternate possibilities. I don't feel like that about every movie that we watch, but I do feel like this one, there were so many other things that could have happened. So many things that I would have changed or I would have been curious if they had gone this route or this route.
Yeah,
But you couldn't come up with those unless you'd seen the original. I don't think either.
for sure.
So.
Well, I want to reboot this motherfucker as a TV show.
Oh.
So it's just called Passengers. I didn't set up an episode format for this, so this will all just take place along episodes, however many. It's the same basic premise, but it's a secret horror show.
A secret.
Yeah, like it wouldn't start off with you thinking it's horror. A man named Connor wakes up due to a malfunction in his pod, goes through the same motions in dealing with his situation, but for 10 years before waking a woman named Summer. Connor keeps this a secret from Summer as they begin to fall in love. One evening, the robot bartender on the ship says the following line to Summer as Connor is away. "I'm so glad things are working out with you two. I couldn't bear to see another failed relationship with Connor."
Oh, shit.
Summer tries to ask more before Connor enters the bar, and she quickly hushes the robot bartender and acts as if all is normal. That night, Summer begins searching around the ship for clues about what is really going on. Summer travels to part of the ship that Connor has claimed they had to avoid due to damage. On that part of the ship, she is horrified to find tally marks on the walls indicating that Connor was awake for 10 years after he told Summer he was only awake for 1 year. I think then you would interrupt like the big moment with an episode that's all flashback of him being alive for the 10 years. Anyway. She next finds a computer with a security camera footage showing Connor with several other individuals. Connor appears behind her, claiming he can explain, and a fight/chase begins. Connor is clearly crazed, claiming all those people just weren't the right companion for him, and when they found out that he had woken them, they didn't understand, so he had to kill them. And it happened several times over the years, starting with his year 1. So that would be like the flashback. You'd see he keeps waking people up, and then they react negatively in various different situations, and he murders them.
I like it.
Anyway, Summer spends much time hiding around the ship, alien style, and Connor speaks to her over the... Not her, alien. You know, like the movie Alien.
I got it.
I didn't want you to... Like, I didn't mean like she's crawling around in the vents, like...
What's alien style?
Anyway, Connor speaks to her over the intercom, growing increasingly impatient with Summer before threatening to kill her. In the finale, Summer locks herself in an escape pod as Connor is on the other end trying to break into her pod. She flips him off and the pod launches. Connor, in a rage, eventually calms down and says that she wasn't right for him clearly and he will just wake another. Before he can do that, we hear the ship announce that what Summer had done. All the hibernation pods have been ejected and are following Summer's escape pod to the nearest planet. The ship has also been set on a course to the nearest sun, and the controls destroyed, so there's no way to stop it. The film ends with Connor staring into the sun he is heading towards, and several pods landing on a nearby, thankfully populated planet, Homestead 1.
Oh, I like that. You know, happy ending for them.
Yeah.
She deserves it.
But I showed the horror of a guy waking you up to have
Murder
sex
you.
with you.
And then murder you.
Yes. Well, you know, Chris Pratt was not a murderer, but that easily could have been a horror story, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We do so appreciate it. If you want to talk movies with us, you can find us on TikTok, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads, and Blue Sky. We are NansPod everywhere.
NansPod?
If you'd like to vote on whose sequel idea was the best, come by our YouTube channel for the polls, or you can let us know your idea across our socials or at needlesssequel@gmail.com. Links, as always, will be wherever you're listening. If I could ask you for one thing, it's to share a show with someone and leave us a review. That is how we get new listeners. Of course, I also ask that you come back for more Needless Sequels. Next week, we're watching Final Destination on Max to prepare for Final Destination Bloodlines, releasing on May 16th. And you've never seen Final Destination?
I've never seen Final Destination.
I haven't seen it in a long time. You might like it.
Yeah?
Maybe you'll hate it. I don't know.
We'll see. We'll find out what I give it.
Today, I wanted to close with a line from The End of Passengers. A friend once said, "You can't get so hung up on where you'd rather be that you forget to make the most of where you are. We got lost along the way, but we found each other, and we made a life, a beautiful life, together." Take care of yourselves, everyone. We will see you next week.
Bye!